Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you are all enjoying these last of the summer days. We are going to continue our lessons on Mr. Rogers today, and we're going to be talking about generosity, which ties very much in with the theme of kindness that we talked about last time, as a sort of little take on that one. So I'm going to read you two quotes from Mr. Rogers. The first is, "What really matters is helping others win too, even if it means slowing down and changing our course now and then." So if you think about in life, like helping people, helping other people win, giving something to them that they might need, being generous with your time, being generous with your spirit, not just with your money, that might take something from yourself to be able to do that. You might lose a little, have to save up a little longer for something you're saving up for, if you're giving someone money, or if you're giving of your time, that's time that you couldn't spend doing something for yourself. But that's what matters. It's about helping other people achieve what they need, even if you have to slow down and change your course a little bit yourself. And the second one, all of us at some time or another need help. Whether we're giving or receiving the help, each one of us has something valuable to bring to this world. That's one of the things that connects us as neighbors. In our own way, each one of us is a giver and a receiver. And I might have read this quote before, but I think it's a good one because I like that it acknowledges we all have the power to give something of ourselves to other people, to be generous of ourselves. But we all have our own needs too, and so we can be a receiver as well. And I love how he talks about how that's what really ties us together and binds us together as neighbors and as communities and as humans. So I am going to read you a story that is a great example of how one could, of someone who really took these ideas to heart, and not from these quotes, but just in general, and a young girl, and ended up was so generous. What started off as a kind of a small bit of generosity just turned into something rather huge and very impactful on her and her family, and for many other people who were the recipients of her generosity. So this is a story called The Other Half. Hannah Solomon looked, and this is, by the way, this is a true story. This is something that happened. Hannah Solomon looked left. She saw a man who was homeless sitting on a fence. She looked right at the Mercedes beside them at the intersection. "Dad," she said. She pointed to the Mercedes. "If that man had a less nice car, and that man there," pointing to the man who was homeless, "could have a meal." Hannah's father, Kevin, answered, yeah, but, if we had a less nice car, that could get him a meal too." And this was the beginning of the saga of the Solomon family, and how they learned that you can give away millions and still receive something even greater than those millions in return. So the Solomon family was sitting pretty. Kevin and Joan, Hannah's parents, had successful jobs they both had good incomes that had good benefits. And in 1994, they moved with their then baby Hannah to Atlanta, Georgia, and bought a historic home on Peachtree Circle. Joseph was born soon after that. The family went to church and believed in helping others. Joan chaired the United Way campaign at a workplace to collect money for charity. Kevin and Joseph, his son Joseph, built homes for Habitat Humanity. And Hannah spent many more hours at the soup kitchen than she needed to fill a community service requirement in school. So by most standards, they were good people. They helped people. They were very generous with their time. Yet after that stoplight epiphany that Hannah had, she began to wonder if what they were doing was enough. So she challenged the rest of her family to think bigger. The stakes were raised when Joan asked if they really needed their $2 million mansion. Crazy. And this question led to a series of family meetings. Opinions were flying fast and furious. What is it you want to accomplish? Am I supposed to give up everything I own? How much do we really need? And after many discussions, some that ended up in anger and some that even ended up in tears, they made a decision as a family. They would sell their house and give half of the proceeds away to people in need and then move into a smaller home. So the house was worth $2 million. So that means they would have $1 million to give away to those in need. And that's a lot of money. So more family meetings were called to decide how and where to spend the money. In the process, the Solomons made a discovery. They had drifted apart as a family as they had been going through this process. As the kids grew older, sports and time with friends took over for the kids. The parents were working late and they were all on electronic entertainment and all these other distractions that occupied so much of their time that the quality time they spent together as a family had pretty much disappeared. But now that they were meeting to discuss how to spend the half, as they called it, that $1 million half of the proceeds from their house, they remembered how much fun that they had together as a family and how much they enjoyed that time together. They discussed topics that were meaningful, and the brother and the sister became closer. The family listened to presentations from several organizations that were eager to put their gift to good use. And they ended up picking the Hunger Project. But there were complications. They committed to donating money, but their house ended up being hard to sell. And they had to repeatedly reduce the price. Now, the sale of the home in the end would not amount to the money they had pledged to donate. So called another family meeting. And the decision was that they would find ways to make up the deficit and stick to their original promise to donate $1 million, even if the sale of their house was not going to provide that. Sorry, I lost my place here. So they did just that. In the end, the Solomons donated enough money to build a community center in Ghana. The Solomons traveled to Ghana to meet the people in the villages. They listened to the villagers and decided what they could use the most. And I love this part of the story because it wasn't just like, oh, here's some money, we gave it to an organization, and that's it. They actually went, visited the people, and asked them and talked to them and said, what do you need? So it wasn't just something that was just built randomly that they may or might not need. They went, they talked to the people and really listened. And that's how this project developed. And the villagers decided that what they could really use is a center that would include a mill that villagers could use to grind their grain so they could sell it to other villages, and space for a schoolroom for the girls, and a medical clinic. And this center was built. The relationship over the years between the family and this family in Ghana and grew to include another village. And the Solomons have donated more than the original million over time. They've continued to donate money to fund these projects as they have discovered other sources to generate income for the projects, including the writing of a book called The Power of Half, which is where the story comes from. So $1 from each book sold goes to Rebuilding Together, the organization called Rebuilding Together, which provides money for critical home repairs to low-income homeowners. So the Solomons keep giving, but they also really want people to know what they receive. The liberation from materialism, the joy of seeing other families pull themselves out of poverty is more precious than any money and is more precious than gold. So it's pretty amazing what the young girl at the time, Hannah's comment when she was walking down the street. She saw a homeless man that needed food, and she saw a man with the Mercedes Benz, a big fancy car, and that started something pretty major. And it's definitely, you can say they definitely are the very definition of generosity. But generosity doesn't have to be just giving money. It means anything that is giving of yourself to someone else. So it could be giving of your time. I know can be very protective of my time, and I never thought about it until I was thinking about this lesson, but that it's almost like I can be stingy with my time, just like someone could be stingy with money. I never really thought about it that way before, but I have started doing some volunteering at a local community garden in Millbridge, which some of you may have seen as you've driven by, or maybe visited it, and gotten some vegetables there. And I wanted to do it last summer and I never did. And I'm finally making it happen this summer. I can't put as much time as all the other volunteers who are retirees, but it's great to be doing it, and it makes me feel good. I feel like I'm contributing something. And when I hear the kids go by in this community garden and they know so much about it and what vegetables are ready and what vegetables aren't, it feels really good to be a part of something that these kids who otherwise are probably, you know, eating a lot of frozen and fried foods, that they know so much about growing vegetables. So it's pretty cool. So giving of your money, giving of time, and just giving of your spirit and giving of your love. These are all ways you can be generous. So along for the theme with these Mr. Rogers lessons, I want you to think about some small way or some large way, and you can think about this through the week. Find some point during the week where you can be generous to someone in need. So I will see you next time.